Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, sir, ma'am, and all of my friends who are watching this video. In this video, I will retell 2 literature articles as a final project for extensive reading. But before that, let me introduce this member of group. We are from group 5. First is myself, Chatleya Khanza with last NPM 2008. Second is Diandra Tria with last NPM 2023. The last member is Dinda Wulidasani with last NPM 2032. We are from class 1, extensive reading, English department, Universitas Dinda. As I mentioned before, in this video, I will tell and retell about literature text or article. The topic is literature based on the topic, and we choose 2 articles with title first, Stylistic Analysis of the Poem Beaufort by Robert Frost, and second is stylistic analysis of the William Blake's poem with the title Night. The first article will analyze Robert Frost's poem with the title Beaufort by stylistic analysis. This stylistic analysis including aspects of graphological, grammatical, syntactical, and phonological patterns. While the second article is an analysis of Blake's poem Night, also contains graphological, syntactical, semantic, and phonological patterns. First, I will analyze and retell the first article, Stylistic Analysis of the Poem Beaufort by Robert Frost. Style is a word derived from Latin word elocution, which means style and means lexis in Greek. Style refers to the thought of person's mind. It describes the way of person speaking and writing. Stylistic is a branch of applied linguistics concerned with the study of style in text. The goal of most stylistics is not simply to describe the formal features of text for their own sake, but in order to show the interpretation of the text, in order to relate literary effects to linguistic causes when they are felt to be relevant. The poem Beaufort by Robert Frost feels very alone in the word. Even though the poem meaning isn't crystal clear, it talks about how the poet sends loneliness but still trusts in God. The ending shows that even though the poets feel completely alone, they aren't pessimistic. They have faith in God. And the poem taps into how people can feel really lonely when they're fussing through sight of nature. But in those hard times, they sometimes find hope by connecting with their belief and finding comfort in their faith. The poem emphasizes on his loneliness, which shows the themes and cruelty of nature. But in this hand, he shows his strong faith in God. The theme is identified by a few vocabularies such as alone, no one, and God. Next is the stylistic analysis of the poem. It's identified as a really curved poem. And the graphological level is there is no division of stanzas. The poem is written as a whole. It's lyrical, and there is usual capitalization, and we use punctuation in the poem. For the lexical level, there are noun, pronoun, verb, and adverb. For the noun, the example is in the word wine, hill, summer, day, God, and the pronoun is me, I. The verb is looking, standing, mist, change, and the adverb is aboard, blandly, and I like to add one more, is adjective, like deeper, restive, alone, and left. Next is the grammatical level use of punctuation. This poem uses question mark, and it shows that the writer has a conflict in their mind. In this poem, colon and full stops are also used. While the phonological level is the 16th line of the poem has a following rhyme scheme, such as A, B, B, A, C, C, D, D, E, D, E. It use of alliteration in the poem, but there is no refrain. There are rhyming words in this poem, such as before, roar, for, door, show, floor, mash, his, mist, toned, known, alone, abroad, God. For the antithesis, shows in the contrasting sentence, such as world, I had no one left but God. No one left and God is a two contrasting things, show the antithesis of the poem. Next, epitropy is a scheme in which the same words are repeated at the end. For example, word I was in house alone and world was in my life alone. For the metaphor is compare to objects or thing without using like or as. In this poem, it shows that blindly struck in my knees and missed, Leaf got caught in cold and his. These two sentences are the metaphor that appears in the poem. Next is the personification. Personification is a trope in which human qualities or abilities are assigned to abstraction or inanimate in the poet. Example in this poet is the sentence, leaves are personified as some sort of snack, considering how it's coiled, hissing, and streaking. The next is an imagery. In this poem, it is author use of vivid and descriptive language add to depth of their work. For example, in this poem is sentence restive door, 40 shore, sagging floor, and coiled and hiss. The next is the tone. Tone is the poet's attitude toward his or her subjects or reader. In this poem, the author's tone is described as melancholic. Next is rhetorical questions, in which the leading questions, for example, appear in a few sentences such as, where had I heard this wine before? Conclusion of this article is Parrot captures the emotion of loneliness experienced by individuals who feel isolated not just within their home but in their world itself. The environment, including nature, appears to be unfriendly, yet the person holds faith in God. The poet employs metaphor and personification to illustrate nature's harshness. Despite this, the poems hold a glimmer of hope, suggesting that despite facing fear and loneliness, having faith as a shield against temptation is a good thing. That's all from first article. Thank you.
I will summarize the article entitled Stylistic Analysis of William Blake's poem Nike. The abstract from the article is a stylistic analysis of Blake's poem Nike, examines graphological, synthetic, semantic, and phonological patterns. It is focused on contrasting our current world, the epithet as harsh nature, with a new world, where distinctions between predator and prey vanish. This analysis helps grasp the poem's core theme and its portrayal of a transformed, harmonious realm without predatory dynamics. Wulidasani, 1975, defines stylistics as the study of literary discourse from a linguistic orientation. Carter, 1989, believed that style is generally depends on a linguistic level. Then Leach, 1969, says style is the way in which something is spoken, written, or performed. It refers to use of words, sentence structures, and speaking style. According to Short and Cantlin, that stylistic is a linguistic approach to the study of the literary text. Carter, 1996, argues on the relevance of stylistic for literature teaching, stating that stylistic analysis helps to foster interpretive skills and to encourage reading between the lines. The article Stylistic Analysis of William Blake's poem Night and explores various aspects such as graphological, morphological, phonological, and semantic patterns. Graphological devices include punctuation and paragraphing. Phonological include rhyme, alliteration, assonance, and onomatopoeia, while the last is morphological include affix and coinage. The poem contrasts the current world characterized by a violent nature with a new world, where predator-prey distinction ceases to exist. The analysis highlights the use of similes and metaphors in the poem, such as comparing the moon to a flower to enhance the power and the beauty of nature. Then, the semantic feature of the poem includes the use of similes, metaphor, personification, imagery, and allusion, literary device to convey meaning. Lexical analysis uses different varieties, such as a varieties comprised of 13 nouns, 13 adjectives, and 28 verbs. The poem also utilizes a specific rhyme scheme A-B, A-B, A-A, A-B-B, and figurative language to create a rhythmic and engaging reading experience. The last is what presenting to the nature is having two types, such as word of terrors means the terror aspects of the nature, and word of tenderness means blessings, joy, warmth, and many more. So, overall, the poem raises awareness about the environmental crisis and emphasizes the need for humans to be conscious of their impact on the nature.
The central stylistic thesis of Article 1 on Robert Frost's brief is that linguistic devices such as alliteration, repetition, and punctuation serve reinforce the path of the emotion of the both profound isolation and loneliness, which is contrasted with a flicker of hopeful faith by the end. The thesis in Article 2, analyzing William Blake's Night, takes a more symbolic approach, arguing that the poetic elements construct an extended environmental metaphor distinguishing pastoral innocence from the experience of sinister, predatory force in nature. While both articles begin with a thesis linking linguistic elements to meaning, Article 1 associates style with personal emotion. Meanwhile, Article 2 associates it with external symbolism. Article 1 thesis deductively evaluates how sound, grammatical, and graphic choice increase force bereavement and courage. Meanwhile, the thesis of Article 2 employs an inductive approach derived from Blake's wider philosophy to connect prosodic features such as alliteration to natural word contrast between good and evil. Essentially, the theses agree on the use of stylistic to make sense of poetic form and content, but they differ in their orientation depending on the poem and poet. The thesis of Article 1 suggests that bereavement and fate map to rhyme schemes, full stop, and repetition, whereas the thesis of Article 2 suggests the environmental dread and salvation shapes and are shaped by imitative rhythms such as onomatopoeia. Both interpret stylistic moves as carriers rather than just containers of meaning, but Article 1 correlates sound and graphology to the interior landscape, while Article 2 views them as projection of a threatened, hope-filled exterior world. However, the angle of correlation split based on the personal versus ideological nature of the poems. Article 1 synthesizes form to feeling, while Article 2 connects structure to Bryan's symbolic system of innocence and experience. The shared method reached its limit and at the divergent emotional and philosophical content to which the seemingly shared stylistic starting point get applied by the two distinct pieces of analysis. An antithesis for Article 1 is that instead of reinforcing isolation and faith, first stylistic moves in brief intensify the sinister qualities of a hostile natural world, threatening the speakers. As opposite to correlating to emotion, the devices reflect the poet's external realities. An antithesis could be advanced for Article 2. Instead of creating grand environmental contrast, Blake's linguistic elements in Night focus on intimate encounters between predator, prey, angels, and lambs, rather than connecting to bird perspective. So, while agreeing stylistic intensely interacts with meaning, the antithetical readings proposed devices echo rather than shape interior feeling or exterior perspective. In Article 1, the sound and punctuation mimic a harsh emotional climate rather than emerge from personal struggles. In Article 2, prosodic echoes constitute intimate finits rather than enact an ideological script. In contrast to the thesis, the antithetical correlation refers on the cause and effect relationship between technical elements and their surrounding environment. Instead of actively projecting an inner or higher domain, style passively reflects its immediate context.
So, the conclusion of the first article is Robert Frost's Brave captures loneliness amidst the cruelty of nature, but also shows hope through faith in the God. The poem explores isolation but also shows the poet's courage and unwavering faith. Stylistically, the book investigates Frost's poetic techniques, themes, and treatment of nature, examining the patterns and literary devices in his work. And the second paper examines William Blake's Nike, dissecting a stylistic element to reveal the contrast between the violent nature world and the harmonious new world. The work encouraged environmental awareness, emphasizing the need for immediate action. Black imagery, reader engagement evoke a sense of global environmental crisis, emphasizing humanity's role in it. Of the two articles on Robert Frost's Brave and William Blake's Nike relate stylistic element to meaning, Article 1 focused on personal emotion, while Article 2 adopt a more symbolic environmental approach. However, both articles challenge these viewpoints. Article 1 suggests that Frost's stylistical choices intensify the harsh nature world rather than express internal emotion, while Article 2 proposes Blake's linguistic element depict intimate sense rather than broad environmental contrast. Ultimately, although it aligns stylisticals with the creation of the meaning, its antitheses are just for a passive reflection of immediate context rather than an active projection of emotion or ideology. That's all for us. Thank you.